The beast that comes up out of the sea in Revelation 13 has 7 heads and 10 horns. He also has a name. In Revelation 9:11, we're told his name is Apollyon. Join me today as we discuss this and much more in part 3 of this series, What Nobody Told You About the Antichrist. Okay, so just as a recap, in part 1 of this series, we discussed the dragon that stood on the sand of the seashore. And we showed you that the dragon in Revelation 12, okay, it says that the dragon is the serpent of old who is called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. So the dragon in Revelation 13 is Satan. And we talked about the beast that comes up out of the sea, and that this beast is not Satan. He's somebody different. Because the dragon, or Satan, is standing on the seashore, and the beast is coming up out of the sea. We talked about the beast that comes up out of the sea is not talking about the sea of humanity, or like a lot of people talk about and teach that the Antichrist, that this beast is the Antichrist. We talked about how this beast is not the Antichrist because this beast is not a human being. This beast coming up out of the sea is the same thing that we see in Revelation chapter 17. He's the same beast that comes up out of the bottomless pit. It says, the beast that you saw, he was and he is not, and he is about to come up out of the bottomless pit, or the abyss. And we talked about how that bottomless pit is a prison, a holding place that's locked up with a key, and it's a holding place for fallen spirits when at some point I don't know what causes them to be able to be active in the world at one point, and then they get to a point maybe where God says, okay, no more, enough is enough, and they get locked up into the bottomless pit, and then at some point they get released. Some of them may get released. Anyway, this beast was a beast or a spirit that ruled over an empire prior to the Roman Empire. And we talked about how in the future, this particular beast is coming up out of the bottomless pit, and he's going to be released from the bottomless pit. We talked about also the beast's defining characteristics, and that the beast was like a leopard and had the feet of a bear and the mouth of a lion. But the primary representation that we're given is as a leopard. And we talked about in Daniel chapter 7 that Daniel also saw a vision of 4 beasts, and the first 3 of the 4 were like a lion, a bear, and a leopard. And we identified those beasts in Daniel chapter 7 as the Grecian Empire, the Medo-Persian Empire, and the Babylonian Empire. And we talked about how this beast in Revelation 13 has a primary description as a leopard, which is, I believe, supposed to indicate the Grecian Empire. And that the beast that comes up out of the sea or the bottomless pit is actually the prince of Grecia that's mentioned in Daniel, that Gabriel went to fight with, and Michael the archangel helped Gabriel fight. And he said, when I go to fight with the prince of Persia, and when I go, the prince of Grecia will come. He's talking about the evil ruling principality over the Grecian Empire. And I believe that when the Grecian Empire fell, that principality or evil spirit was locked up in the bottomless pit at that time, and that in the future he will be released from the bottomless pit. And that is why we see this beast coming up out of the bottomless pit looking like a leopard, which is a description or an example of the Grecian Empire of the past. And we talked about in Revelation 17 how the beast that you saw, he was one of the five rulers or spirits that ruled over one of the five previous empires. And he is not, meaning he was not around during the time of the Roman Empire, and he's about to come up out of the bottomless pit. And then we talked about how that there are seven kings, that five had fallen, the one is, and that these kings are not talking about human kings, and that really they couldn't be talking about human kings, because when you look at the empires, okay, like let's just say the Egyptian Empire, okay, there were many pharaohs, there wasn't just one, but there was one evil spirit that was in power, ruling over the Roman Empire, the Egyptian Empire, and he oversaw all of the different pharaohs that ruled. Same thing goes for the other kingdoms. There were different human rulers, like the Roman Empire. There were lots of different human emperors, okay, that ruled over, but there was only one evil principality that was in charge behind the scenes in the spiritual realm over the Roman Empire. And so when we're looking at Revelation 17, it says that the seven heads of the beast are seven mountains or kingdoms, and that there are seven kings over those kingdoms. It's not talking about human kings, it's talking about the principalities in the spiritual realm that rule over those kingdoms. Five of those kings, those principalities, had fallen. The one that was ruling over the Roman Empire still was, ruling over the Roman Empire in John's day, and the other one has not yet come. But when he comes, he must remain a little while. But the beast, which was and is not, okay, so we have to look at the beast himself. Like, let's just look at the body of the beast, and then he has seven heads. The beast himself, it says, is the eighth. Now, he doesn't say he's the eighth head, because we only ever see seven heads. But the beast, or you say the body of the beast that's represented, he is the eighth. The eighth what? He's not the eighth head, he's the eighth king. Okay, he's the eighth king, the eighth principality that's going to rule over a kingdom in the last days. And we know that the beast, okay, not one of the heads, it says he is one of the seven heads. So he existed as one of the seven heads in the past, but in the future he's not another head. The beast himself is the eighth. Okay, so when we go back to Revelation 13, and it says, and I saw one of his heads as if it had been slain. Okay, this is not talking about a human being. A lot of people look at the Antichrist and they teach that the Antichrist himself will be killed during the last 7 years, and that he will be resurrected, that Satan will resurrect him back from the dead, and the whole world will marvel because the Antichrist was raised back from the dead and everybody saw him get killed. Okay, that is not what this is talking about at all. Okay, the Antichrist is not going to be killed. Okay, it says in Revelation 13 that one of the heads had been slain. Well, in Revelation 17, it says that the seven heads are seven mountains. Not seven human beings, they're seven mountains, and those mountains represent kingdoms. So when it says in Revelation 13 of the beast, he saw one of his heads, It's talking about one of the kingdoms, as if it had been slain, and and it's not necessarily talking about the kingdom itself, like the kingdom of Grecia is going to be resurrected, but the king over, or the prince over, the Grecian Empire, that spirit that was ruling over the Grecian Empire in the past, he was taken down and thrown into the bottomless pit, which is why the Grecian Empire fell. But this depiction here of the head being slain is talking about that the prince of Grecia, which I believe, he's talking about one of the princes over the 5 ruling empires. And that it's talking about it being slain, not physically like wounded to his physical head, but that he was taken down, his authority was taken away, and he was bound in the bottomless pit. And when it says his fatal wound was healed, it's talking about him coming back in the last days. And that's exactly what we see when in verse 1 it says he saw the beast coming up out of the sea, or coming up out of the bottomless pit. In other words, he's going to be released in the last days, and that is what is being talked about here as one of the heads being slain. Okay, the beast being the prince of Grecia being taken out, and then being released again from the bottomless pit and coming back to power over end time empire, which is going to be the kingdom of the Antichrist. Okay, so switching gears now, we need to talk about who this beast is, because I believe that the Bible does identify who this evil principality is that ruled over one of the previous 5 empires, and we are given actually a name. In Revelation chapter 9, it's the blowing of the 5th trumpet. It says, "Then the 5th angel sounded. He sounded his trumpet. And I saw a star from heaven, which had fallen to the earth, and the key of the bottomless pit was given to him." Okay, so we looked in the previous sessions, the bottomless pit here. In this particular verse, it's a buso, and it's the bottomless pit. It's the abyss. And so in the King James it says, "And to him was given the key to the bottomless pit." So we know that that star is representative of an angel, whether fallen or not fallen, an angel of God. It doesn't say here. It just says that he saw a star from heaven which had fallen to the earth, and the key to the bottomless pit was given to him. He opened the bottomless pit. He opened the abyss. Okay, we're going to show you in a little bit here. There's a verse that gives us an indication of when this bottomless pit is going to be opened during the last 7 years. It says he opened the bottomless pit, and a smoke went up out of the pit like the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by the smoke of the pit. Then out of the smoke came locusts upon the earth. And we're given this description of these locusts. Okay, these are not like physical locusts that we see on the earth today, like bugs. These are descriptions of evil spirits that are bound in the bottomless pit, and they're released in the last days upon the earth under the blowing of the 5th trumpet. And it says, "And power was given to them as the scorpions of the earth have power. And they were told not to hurt the grass of the earth, nor any green thing, nor any tree, but only the men who do not have the seal of God in their forehead." Now, that seal of God is talking about people who are believers, Christians, people who have been sealed by the Spirit of God. Whatever these creatures are, they're spiritual beings that are released from the bottomless pit, and they are not allowed to to hurt believers in Jesus Christ. They're not allowed to hurt Christians. It says, and they were not permitted to kill anybody, but only to torment for 5 months. So this 5 months is an indication here of when during the last 7 years this fifth trumpet will be blown. And I think it just makes sense that it's 5 months before the exact middle of the last 7 years, because they're permitted to continue for 5 months. Something stops them from continuing after the 5 months. And when you're looking at a timeline of events, that would be the coming of the Lord, the appearing of the Lord in the middle of the last 7 years. But for 5 months, they're permitted to torment like the torment of a scorpion when it stings a man. And in those days, men will seek death, but they will not find it. They will long to die, and death will flee from them. The appearance of the locusts was like horses prepared for battle, and on their heads appeared to be crowns like gold. Their faces were like the faces of men. The description here is just kind of crazy. They had hair like the hair of a woman, which maybe gives an indication of their seductive type spirits. Their teeth were like the teeth of lions. They had breastplates like the breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was like the sound of many chariots. And they had tails like scorpions and stings in their tails, and there was and in their tails is the power to hurt men, here again, for 5 months. Okay, but they're not going to be able to hurt any Christian, any believer in Jesus Christ. They're not allowed to do that. So, but verse 11, it says, and they have as a king over them the angel of the bottomless pit, and his name in Hebrew is Abaddon, and in the Greek he has the name Apollyon. So Apollyon is the king over the bottomless pit. He's the king over the abyss, and he is the king over all of these locust creatures. So we see here under the blowing of the fifth trumpet that the bottomless pit is opened, and these locust creatures come out. But also at the same time, Apollyon comes out of the bottomless pit. This is where Apollyon is released. So when we go over here to Revelation 17, it says in verse 8, the beast that you saw, he was and he is not, and he's about to come out of the abyss or the bottomless pit. It's talking about Revelation 9 when the bottomless pit is actually opened, okay? And Apollyon is released at that time along with all these locust-type creatures. This is how Apollyon gets released. Now I want to show you the name Apollyon. Okay. I want you to look right here on my screen when I highlight Apollyon. It says the Greek name for the ruling angel in hell, Apollyon meaning destroyer. Okay, so Apollyon, the name means the destroyer. And I believe Apollyon was the evil principality that ruled over the Grecian Empire. Now, I guess I could be wrong about that. It just seems like the Bible gives that type of an indication. That it is the Grecian Empire, the spirit that empowered Alexander the Great back in the days of the Grecian Empire, and the speed of which Alexander the Great conquered is incredible. I mean, when you study the history of the Grecian Empire and what they did, it's an incredible history lesson about how quickly and swiftly this Alexander the Great emperor just took over everywhere in a very, very fast pace. But he didn't do that in his own human power. He did that by the help of the evil principality that ruled over the Grecian Empire, that was empowering Alexander the Great to do that. And this is the creature that will be released from the bottomless pit at the end of days. And I believe he is the one who empowers the Antichrist. Okay? So when we go to Revelation 13, it says, and they worshiped the dragon, now that's Satan, because he gave his authority. Satan gives his authority to Apollyon. And they worshipped Apollyon, saying, who is like Apollyon, and who is able to wage war with him? Okay, there was given to him a mouth speaking arrogant words. Okay, Apollyon, I'm sure Apollyon has a mouth, and I'm sure that it's not given a mouth in the last days. This is talking about he was given a mouthpiece. Okay, he was given a human spokesperson to work and operate through, like he did and he operated through Alexander the Great in the past. Okay, there was given to him a mouth or a mouthpiece speaking arrogant words. So I want to take you to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, because we find something here that's interesting. Okay, Apollyon means destroyer. In 2 Thessalonians 2:3, it says, let no one in any way deceive you, for it, okay, the day of the Lord, the appearing of the Lord, will not come unless the apostasy or the rebellion or insurrection comes first, and the man of lawlessness is revealed. Okay, now this is a man, this is a human being that's going to be revealed in the last days. This is the person that we identify as being the Antichrist. It says, and the man of lawlessness is revealed. But look at the title that Paul gives to this particular person, the son of destruction. The man of lawlessness, Paul calls the son of destruction. It's a very interesting description that Paul gives here. And here's the reason why. Because the word destruction in Greek, it's Apollyon, the son of destruction, or the huios tes Apollyos, the son of destruction. It seems like it's indicating that the Antichrist is the son of Apollyon. Apollyon and Apollyos both mean destruction. So I can't be dogmatic about that, but I think seems to me there's a clear indication this is what Paul was talking about. And not only that, but when we go to Matthew chapter 24 and verse 15, when Jesus said, therefore when you see the abomination of desolation, the abomination of destruction, which was spoken of through Daniel the prophet. So I think there's a indication here that a lot of times we look at this verse and we're thinking about the human being the abomination of destruction. But I think maybe perhaps we should look into it a little bit further. And yes, there will be a human representation of this evil and destruction, who is the man who we call the Antichrist. But we can't ever forget that there is an evil principality, an evil spirit that will be empowering him to do the things that he does during the last 3.5 years especially. And in Revelation 9:11, the identification of this principality that's going to be coming out of the bottomless pit is none other than Apollyon himself. Now, there's an interesting thing happening today in today's world, and I got to be a little bit careful of how I talk about this. But there is a place over in Switzerland, on the border of Switzerland and France. The location, the initials of this location are CERN. And these scientists of this organization are experimenting with some very dangerous things. And they're smashing atoms together, and they're doing all kinds of stuff like that over there. And there's over 100 countries involved in these experiments that they're doing. Now, I from what I understand, the location site of this facility where they're doing these experiments is rather large, just north of Geneva in Switzerland. And they have this facility underground. And they have admitted and stated that they are doing these experiments to open up portals, open up different dimensions. And the site, the physical location, the site that this facility exists on, has been reported to be the location of a temple that existed back during the Roman Empire times, and it was the temple that was dedicated to Apollyon, the destroyer. And the people back then believed that by worshiping Apollyon, that there was able to be a portal or a window opened into the different dimension or into the underworld. And so I just think that's fascinating that, many countries of the world are involved in trying to do experiments to open up some sort of a dimensional portal, and that the location is where the former temple dedicated to Apollyon the Destroyer existed. I don't know. I don't think that's a coincidence. But the question is are they going to be successful? Is that what's being referred to as the bottomless pit being opened and Apollyon being released? Is it something that that God is going to open up, or is it something that it's going to they're going to figure out how to open it up and release him into the world? At any rate, in the last days, there is going to be a released entity, a principality by the name of Apollyon, who is going to empower the Antichrist